My name is Colleen, and this is my kitchen. Believe it or not, this was me 4 years ago. I struggled with my weight my entire life. And finally, I came to the realization that diets don't work. By simply eating healthy and moving more, I was able to lose over 100 pounds. I started at a size 26W, and within about a year and a half, I went to a size 12, no W. And best of all, I've now kept the weight off for over 2 years, and counting. So now here I am in my kitchen showing you how you can eat healthy and lose weight just like I have. Because if I can do it, you can too. Hello and welcome back to my kitchen. Tonight I have a really great soup for you. We're going to be doing a twist on a tomato soup, the classic tomato soup. I'm going to show you how I do an oven roast on it to just make it bursting with flavors. We're going to be using fresh tomatoes for this. And I'm also going to show you how I make it really thick and creamy without any cream whatsoever. In fact, this entire dish is vegan. So absolutely great way to kick off the new year. Let's get started. Our oven roasted garlic and tomato soup is going to start with some roasted garlic. So we're going to prep this and then we're going to prep the tomatoes. So I've used an entire bulb of garlic here, and I've just cut the very top off to expose those cloves inside. And then I'm going to use my little baker here. You can use any kind of garlic roaster. You can even just use aluminum foil for this. Anything that allows you to cover the dish. And then I'm going to use 1 teaspoon of olive oil. And I'm going to drizzle it right over those exposed cloves. And seal that up. This is going to cook for an hour at 375, but we're going to wait until we get our tomatoes done up so we can add those at the same time into the oven. So now I have 3 pounds of Roma tomatoes. I'm not going to blanch these and peel them. I like them with the peels because we're going to puree this up when it's done roasting, and it's going to just disappear. It's going to help give it a really nice thick and chunky texture. Peels also add a little bit of fiber to the dish. So we're going to keep them in there, and all I'm going to do is cut these up. I just cord them. I'm going to cut them up into semi-large wedges. So I'm cutting each one into about 8 pieces. And I'm going to be using my enameled cast iron pot to cook these in because this can go from oven to stove. So now I'm just going to repeat that for all of the tomatoes in here. Once we have all of our tomatoes chopped, then I'm going to add in 2 carrots that I've shredded up, and that's going to make about a cup and a half of shredded carrot. Now I have a small sweet onion, and I'm just going to wedge this up. Because this is going to roast and cook down, I want it in somewhat large pieces. I don't want to chop it up really finely and have it burn up in the oven. So I'm just going to cut it actually into quarters. And I have 2 sprigs of rosemary. I'm not going to bother to chop that because I'm going to puree this later on once it's cooked up. Now let's add just a pinch of red chili pepper flakes because I like just a little bit of bite to my tomato soup. About a 1/4 teaspoon. Then we're going to add a generous pinch of salt here. And I'm being generous on my salt because I'm going to be using a homemade chicken broth that doesn't have any salt in it to finish this off later. Let's put in 2 tablespoons of olive oil. This is going to help everything roast up really nicely. And let's give that a good stir. Make sure everything gets coated with that oil. And last but not least, I have a bay leaf. I'm just going to bury that right in the center of the tomatoes and let that cook. Now this is not a fast dish. I wouldn't make this on a weeknight when you've got limited time after work. Instead, I would make this on a Saturday or Sunday where you have time to let this really slowly roast and build that flavor in the oven. So now what I'm going to do is put my lid on, and I'm going to bake it first with the lid on for 30 minutes. The total cook time for this dish is almost 2.5 hours. So again, time consuming, but absolute labor of love. The delicious taste, the delicious dish that you're going to have at the end of this is absolutely worth it. So let's go put this in the oven for half an hour, covered at 375. Our timer went off, so we're going to pull that pan out there. I'm going to let the garlic continue roasting, but we do want to go ahead and give the tomatoes a really good stir. I don't know if you can see that, but they've released a lot of juice, so there's a lot of liquid in the bottom of the pan now. So what we're going to do now is we're going to continue roasting this, and we're going to put the lid back on, but crack it ever so slightly, just like that. And now I'm going to roast it for another 30 minutes. The timer went off once again, so now we're going to take that garlic out because it's going to be nice and roasted. And we're going to go ahead and remove the lid from those tomatoes. Give that another stir. There's tons of liquid in there now. So now I want to roast this for another hour. I'm going to roast it for 1 hour total, and I'll give it a good stir again halfway between, so at 30 minutes. And I'm going to do that with the lid off now so that it will evaporate some of this liquid and let those tomatoes get nice and caramelized up. Once that finishes cooking in the oven, I'm going to go ahead and move it to the stove top, put it on medium heat, and remove those bay leaves that have been cooking in there. And now there's just a little bit of liquid left in the bottom of the pan. So what I'm going to do is add a half a cup of wine. I'm using a Chianti wine. It's a dry red wine from the Chianti region, which is in Tuscany in Italy. So it's a perfect fit with this sort of Italian-inspired soup. And I'm just going to take my spoon and kind of rub it around. Use the back of the spoon to get all these nice crusty bits off of the pan, because this is where all the flavor is. And I'm going to let this continue to cook and reduce down by about half. Once that wine reduces down, then we're going to add 2 cups of chicken broth, and this is going to make for a fairly thick tomato soup. If you want it a little bit thinner, then add a little more broth. Then we have a cup and a half of cannellini beans, and this is going to help add some protein to the dish while also adding a really nice thick kind of creaminess to it. Okay, and then the last thing that we're going to add is that garlic that we roasted up. Now, we could take a spoon and pluck each individual clove out like all those cooking shows tell you to do. But you know what I love to do is just give it a good squeeze. Look at that. It comes right out, all those cloves. Now, you really want to use roasted garlic and not just garlic that you press in for this, because roasted garlic takes on an entirely different flavor. It's sweet, it gets kind of caramelized. It doesn't have that peppery garlic taste that raw garlic does. Now the only thing that's left to do is to puree this up. You could do that in a blender. I highly recommend an immersion blender for this. It doesn't have to leave the pot. I'm only getting this piece dirty. It's super, super easy. These cost less than $30 at the store. And here we go, roasted garlic and tomato soup. So good you will never go back to canned tomato soup. I hope you give this a try. I'm going to go sit down and enjoy my meal, and I will see you next time in my kitchen.